Welcome to the Healthy Happy Kids Summit. I'm Christine Waltermeyer, and today we have with us Karen Ryder. She is incredible. She's a medical nutritionist, a fitness expert, a wife and mother, and she's also the founder of Nutritious and Delicious, a great website with lots of resources there. She's really a leader in nutrition, fitness, and wellness. And how I stumbled upon Karen is I was actually reading an article, I think it was on Glamma Mom or something like that, and I saw all these healthy snack suggestions, and I was like, wow, that sounds great, that sounds great. And then I saw these recipes that were making my mouth water, and I was like, who is this person? So I looked her up, and she's just, so personable and down to earth and so talented and knowledgeable. So welcome, Karen. Glad to have you with us.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be on today.
Great. Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about yourself and how Nutritious and Delicious came about.
Well, today, as you said, I'm a nutritionist and I specialize in helping people in a very practical, economical, and logistical manner overcome any chronic health issues that they might have. And I work with doctors, I work with other holistic practitioners, and I try to work in a very holistic manner. 17 years ago, I was what people would say a superficially healthy person. On the outside, I looked healthy. My doctors gave me the all clear. They said there was nothing really wrong with me. And I was on the correct weight range. I was exercising. I had a job, but I was really sick. And, I suffered from many chronic conditions, including eczema all over my face. Where I was walking around with bottles of, steroid cortisone, using makeup like there's no tomorrow to cover it up. I had horrible sinusitis, and I was basically, told by my doctors that I would never be able to overcome sinusitis unless I did an operation. And I suffered from various other health issues like UTIs and thrush and energy disorders. I used to drink only diet Sprites. That was my liquid. And I had, of course, because I was having everything diet because I wanted to be slim, I used coffee and chocolate to kind of get me through the day. And I generally just was a very unhealthy, unhappy young woman. And I think my down point was one day in a hotel in Tokyo where I was with friends and we were traveling around. And everyone went out for a day's activity, and I was with another sinus infection, and I lay in bed there, and I thought to myself, how could someone that's young, exercises, thinks that they eat healthy, be suffering from so many of these chronic conditions? The doctors are telling me it's not a big deal, I should just take some medicine, but I don't feel well. I don't feel vital. I just don't have, that oomph. And I vowed to myself that I'll change it. I'll figure it out. I'm going to figure something out that's going to help me feel good. And so I started researching. I think a lot of people stumble across, nutrition and health when they feel really low. So I researched, and one thing led to another. And I signed up for a course about nutrition, and I made just tiny changes, really, really small changes in my diet. And I figured I also might have some sort of allergy or sensitivity, so I took out some things. And in a very short period of time, I started to see the amazing effects it had on my body. And I just started to heal. And this is 17 years ago, and I didn't have that operation in my sinusitis. In fact, I haven't taken antibiotics for a sinus infection in 15 years now. And I just, that empowerment that you feel when you take hold of your health and you feel good, it's an infectious thing, and you wanna help other people. So I quit my job. I was a lawyer and a banker. I quit my job, and I went to study full-time nutrition. Wow. And I decided that what I want to do is I want to help people feel good. That's my goal. And I get it. People have constrictions and lifestyles, and things that they're not always are in control of. And I always tell people it's not about being perfect. It's about making small little changes and integrating them into your lifestyle, and then you will feel the effect slowly but surely. And I think having kids myself inspired me to also get into kids nutrition, which I'm really passionate about.
Oh, wonderful. And do you see, just because you experienced it yourself, do you see a lot of eczema with children too?
I'm seeing various conditions in the clinic at the moment. I'm seeing a lot of what we call weak immune systems in my clients and kids as well, but both adults and kids. I'm seeing a lot of upper respiratory. I'm seeing a lot of
Oh, you know
asthma.
what? The volume cut out there, Karen. I'll just edit that part out. Can you just start from there again?
Sure. Right. In my clinic, I'm seeing a huge range of diseases. In kids, commonly what I'm seeing is weak immune systems. And that's manifesting as upper respiratory tract infections, recurrent upper respiratory tract infections, eczema, asthma, mood and attention disorders, and lots of gut dysbiosis, which is gut problems. The common denominator for all of these conditions is a very weak immune system. So when we treat asthma or we treat eczema or we treat, any kind of weak immune system with a child, we use the same protocol. And, the protocol is quite simple. It's 3 steps to the protocol. Step number 1 is we cut out any inflammatory foods, which is basically sugar, gluten, dairy, and processed food.
Okay.
Step number 2 is we work on strengthening the immune system by adding in supplements like probiotics, omega-3, and, the vital multivitamins. And step number 3 is we teach people to focus on eating proper food, real food. And with that, we can heal nearly every single, case that walks into the clinic.
That's wonderful. Wow. Including, I see that you work with kids with ADD and ADHD. You see the diet helps with those as well.
Well, nutritional factors like food additives and sugar and even food allergies or food sensitivities and also fatty acid deficiencies have been linked to behavioral problems in kids. There is increasing evidence that kids with behavioral problems are sensitive to a certain food or a certain ingredient. And when you take that out of their diet, they respond amazingly. And when you continue to feed them the foods that are aggravating their symptoms, they just get worse and worse and worse. We're seeing things, we've seen many, many studies showing us that artificial colors, preservatives, especially the red and the yellow color that's used a lot in processed food, have been linked to, having negative impacts on the kids' behavior. Processed milk and milk products, wheat products, sugar, and MSG, monosodium glutamate. Those are foods/chemicals that can really affect your child's behavior. But the good news is that when you take those foods out of the diet and you substitute for healthier foods, many symptoms improve.
Wow.
And so, I'm seeing that a lot in the clinic at the moment. And again, it goes back to reviewing the diet and strengthening the system and just eating proper food.
Wow, wonderful. And I think it's great that you also, you lead workshops on beautiful baby workshops, which is so sweet.
Yep.
And you touch on so many important topics like introducing solids, nutrient supplementation, and I'm really curious about the baby led weaning. I guess that's basically letting the baby, stop when they're, well, I'll let you explain it, but yeah, let's hear more about some of those topics.
With babies, I think the most important thing to speak about with babies is the organic versus the non-organic, because I think a lot of people are not aware that babies or young kids have smaller and weaker livers. So their livers are not as efficient as adults in clearing toxins from their bodies. And unfortunately, a lot of the regular food that you're buying in the supermarket, including fruits and vegetables, which are great, are covered in different kinds of herbicides, pesticides, fungicides, and these accumulate in these little kids' bodies. And together with other kind of chemicals that they're getting through their shampoos or fabric conditioners and so forth and so on, it's doing a bit of an overload for their bodies. So what I tell people with is the first couple of years of your life, you want to try have an organic diet as much as possible. There's a list that I like to work with. It's the Environmental Working List group, and it's called the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. And most people are quite aware of it. But it's a list that tells you what are the cleanest fruits and vegetables, the ones that don't have a lot of pesticides and herbicides, and the dirtiest ones. And I think if you stick to that, you can make organic pretty affordable.
Yes.
In regards to baby-led weaning versus spoon feeding and pureeing, I'm of the thought that mother knows what's best for her child. I think every single one of us is different. And what works for one doesn't work for another child. And I think mothers usually know what's good for their children. Some kids are great, they thrive on purees, and some kids just don't, and they like to eat by themselves. And I think you need to assess yourself and your child when you're ready for it. It doesn't really matter what you do, whether it's baby led weaning or pureeing. It matters what kind of food are you giving to your child. And are you really teaching your child to appreciate tastes and flavors? You know, we know from research that a child gets their first flavors in utero, from the umbilical cord, from what you eat. And studies have shown that mothers that have had carrot juice throughout their pregnancy, their babies come out and they do like carrot juice more than kids that their mothers didn't have carrot juice. So there is something about, you know, taste that sticks with us. And then you get further tastes through breast milk. But introducing solids is basically the first time that we're teaching our kids to eat food. And if we focus on fresh, real food, you know, based on vegetables, then we're going to do good. If we start off, you know, in the wrong way and we introduce a lot of sweet foods and processed foods, then, you know, it's going to be very, very hard to convert those kids to eat healthy. And we're going to see, you know, chronic illnesses with them early on.
Wow. Yeah, so important to start young. That's great.
It's easy to start young.
Yeah, right. You know, and this is a great topic because a lot of people will wonder, like, do I really need organic or not? So it's great to at least target those, you know, specific ones.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Now, you also talk about healthy home and the importance of a healthy home and not becoming a victim of your kitchen and food environment. Is this important for parents, and how so?
I feel the answer is yes. I feel that the marketing in today's world is very, very misleading. When I walk around with my clients in the supermarket, you know, we walk around and we speak about the different products. They always pull out the products and say, well, it says organic, it says gluten-free, it's really expensive, so it must be healthy, right? And I always tell them, you really can't judge a book by its cover. You know, I think marketing today is just amazing what it convinces us to buy. And most of the time, most people that I speak to feel that they are feeding their family a healthy diet, where in fact it's not really a healthy diet. Because when you really understand ingredient lists and you read ingredient lists properly, you realize that there's a lot of stuff that they put in there that's very far from healthy. And so when I say don't become a victim of your food environment, it means that you need to be in charge of what you put in your body. And one of the best ways of doing that is learning to read the ingredients properly, making sure that you know what's making up the product, and avoiding, obviously, processed food and stuff like that as much as possible. But when you do that and you read the ingredients and you realize what's in your food and you ask the proper questions and you get educated, then you make a huge difference, not only in your shopping cart, but in your health.
Wonderful. That's great. Yeah, I guess they say food, you know, without labels, or like you say, the least ingredients on the label, or it's kind of the way to go.
But with kids, I'm finding that a lot of people are buying cereals and juices and snack foods, especially the kids ones, because they've always got pictures of some sort of cartoon on them, and the kids like it, and it's easy, and no one has time to make breakfast. So, you know, I think in the first step is to maybe just look at what you're feeding your family and understand what's in it. And then the second step is to make these changes.
Yes. Oh, wonderful. This is such great advice for parents. So how about, can you say a little bit of something about building a healthy eating plan with foods that your kids will enjoy? What would that look like?
The principle is very, very simple. This is the way I explain it to my kids who are young. I say to them, there is living food. It comes from the tree and the ground, and there's factory food. We want to try eat very little factory food and eat a lot of living food. And if you work with that principle, you really don't need to count calories, to measure anything, to think about anything. If you stick to that simple principle, you will be healthy eventually. But in a general, what I try and explain to people is when you've got a plate, you've got a round plate, you need to make a little dividing line in the middle of the plate. It doesn't have to be literally a dividing line. It could be an imaginary line. And then you divide the plate into half. Half of the plate should be coming from vegetables. It doesn't matter what sort of vegetables. It doesn't matter in what form. It could be stir fry. It could be soups. It could be raw. It could be steamed. It could be roasted. However you like to eat your vegetables. but half of the plate should be vegetables. Vegetables are the most essential thing that we need to be getting into our kids' bodies because they've got minerals, they've got vitamins, and they've got really strong, powerful antioxidants that are important for thriving kids and for boosting immune systems, okay? And then the second part of our plate we need to divide into again, and that's divided into good quality protein and good quality carbohydrate. Protein is like the Lego blocks of your body. It's what builds your tissue, your muscle, which is very important for kids because they're growing. Protein also balances our blood sugar. So it helps us feel full, and it balances out those big blood sugar high and lows, which influence kids, especially kids' moods and activity levels. So protein can come from vegetarian sources, like lentils and legumes, and it can come from animal sources, like eggs, meat, chicken, fish. In this group, it's important to understand that if you're choosing the meat and the fish and the animal protein alternative, you want to try as much as possible get a organic or at least free-range grass-fed option to minimize the amount of antibiotics / hormones / genetically modified foods that are being fed to these animals and then therefore getting into your body as well. The carbohydrate part of the plate, that's the fuel. That's basically fuel. That's what's giving us energy. And kids have a lot of energy and they need to be fueled. But we want to choose the right kind of fuel, the fuel that won't abuse their blood sugars. So we want to choose whole grains or complex carbohydrates instead of the white processed stuff. So instead of white rice, we choose brown rice. Instead of whole wheat pasta, instead of white pasta, we might want to choose quinoa pasta or something like that. But basically, if you stick to that and you imagine eating living foods or real foods versus factory foods, it's pretty easy to kind of eat healthy. And I explain to people, usually kids like between 5 to 10 things. They've got 5 to 10 recipes that they like. And that's fine. Your kids don't need to like 20 recipes. Stick to those 5 to 10 recipes. Healthify them. So look into them. Are you giving the kids good quality protein? Have you swapped the carbohydrates for complex carbohydrates? And then just double up on the vegetables whenever you can. Vegetables should be in every single meal, from breakfast to lunch to dinner and snacks as well. And that's where variety can come in through the vegetables as well.
That's great.
That's great. Pretty much, what I think, explains, having a healthy eating plan.
And healthy fats as well. Do you recommend?
Healthy fats are very, 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 very important because our brain is made of fats. And kids' brains are brains that are growing, and our nerves are covered with fat, and our hormones work with each other, connect with each other via fat. So fat is very, very important. Again, like carbohydrates, we need to choose the good fats. And the good fats are the ones that are coming from nature, like avocado, nuts and seeds, extra virgin olive oil, extra virgin coconut oil. And the bad fats are the factory fats, like the canola oil, the sunflower oil, all those vegetable processed oils. Those are the fats that we need to avoid as much as possible.
Yeah, that's one that I've gotten onto lately, and I realized that they're in everything. The sunflower, the safflower oil, you really can't find a healthy chip, I mean, nowadays they do have some olive oil chips, but then you wonder, should they be heating up the olive oil to frying temperature,
Yeah. That's why if you stick to eating, living foods that come from the ground or the trees, then you're going to be okay.
Yes. So in your opinion, we've touched on some of the foods that you think are harmful. Any other of the top worst foods that we should avoid giving our kids, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think there's 2 categories for that. Category number 1 is the processed food, and that includes cereals, juices, processed cheeses, cold cut meats, and snack food. I think they should be completely avoided because of the additives. And the second group is fried foods from fast food joints because they are usually cooked and fried in rancid oils, and they are very harmful for children's bodies. Those chips, those nuggets, one of the most harmful things that you can get into your child's body.
Oof, and kids love that stuff too, yeah.
Kids love that stuff, and parents don't realize how harmful it is because of the marketing, again. And I think if most parents knew what they were putting in their kids' bodies, they would never allow it. And it's because we don't know. And I think that's one of the most powerful things you can do is educate yourself. If you know, then it's easy to say no to your kids. If you don't know, then you're just thinking that you're just being a tough parent. I always say that if you want to change your habits, educate yourself.
That's great. Yeah, and I guess we live up by our example too. If we're not going through the drive-through and munching it down ourselves, and we're going home to eat dinner, it's a little
Yeah.
easier. So,
Yeah.
what are some of your favorite kid-friendly recipes?
Um, my favorite kid friend, my kids actually, my favorite recipes that my kids love are anything from kefir smoothies. They love coconut waffles with coconut yogurt. Vegetable soups are a huge hit in our house. Many lentil stews or rice and lentil dishes are good. They love sweet potato chips with guacamole. They love cauliflower mash with wild fish or wild salmon. Kale chips are a hit in our house. And we make a lot of our own little bliss bowls or raw vegan chocolate at home. And they love to participate in that too. So that's pretty much the recipes that, go on our house pretty easily.
Wow, so healthy. Oh my gosh. Your kids are so lucky.
They have been conditioned to eat like that since a very, very young age. And one of the things I do with them is I put them in the kitchen all the time.
I was just going to ask you that if they help you cook.
All the time. They shop and they cook with us because we feel that it's very, very important for kids to be part of the cooking process. A, we're giving them tools for their future. And B, we've seen it firsthand that the more they cook and are active in the kitchen, the more they want to eat the dish that they made. And it's a very natural response for a child to say, oh, I don't want to eat that, because they don't know what's in it. It's a natural mechanism of protection that kids have. But if they've touched the ingredients and they've been part of making it and they know what's in the food, they're more likely to eat it.
Yes. Yeah, they just love that whole sensory experience. I just bought a little kid's knife. It's like a kid safe knife for my daughter. So she's 6 and I think she's ready to start slicing some strawberries.
Yeah, I think it's great. Anything, even shopping is important for them, picking the foods.
Yes, yes. That's great. So you take your kids along with you and involve them in the whole process. And do they even sort of have a say in the menu, or you sort of have like regular menus each week? Or
They definitely have a say in the menu, and each kid prefers certain foods, and I try and incorporate that into the diet. And some weeks are better than others. Some weeks we're not as busy, and then we get more creative. But I think every step of the way we need to involve them. I wish I was living on a farm, but I'm living in a city. But we still grow our own herbs, and the kids are part of that, and they know, what basil is, what aloe vera is, what coriander is, and they come into the herb garden and they pick the stuff that they need for breakfast. And Sundays we always make breakfast together, and they're part of it. And I think that's important because that empowers them.
Yes. That's great. So,
sorry.
Oh no, you go ahead. Sorry.
We definitely menu plan together. And I ask them, out of the 5 lunch boxes that they love, which ones do you want on which days? So they do get choices, and it makes it better for them. I guess they enjoy it.
That's great. And just out of curiosity, do you pack sort of leftover dinner for lunches, or any tips on making it easy for lunches? I get stumped there sometimes. I have to admit, I do like the same thing over and over. I need a little variety.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing wrong with doing the same thing over and over again. We have 5 or 6 lunch boxes ideas that we go and that the kids love, and I know that it's a no-fail lunchbox idea. So there's nothing wrong with it as long as it's a balanced meal and it contains a proper carbohydrate, a proper protein, and some good fat and some vegetables and some fruit inside. It's a perfect lunchbox. So where I vary a lot is the fruits and veggies that I add to the lunchbox. But the staples, I kind of lean on about 5 to 6 recipes that I know my kids love. What I do to help myself is I do bulk shopping days and bulk cooking days, and then I freeze. So if I'm making little frittatas, or I'm making little schnitzels or anything like that I'm making at home, I'll make a big batch and I'll freeze it. And then I can always defrost 1 or 2, put it in the lunchbox. I often make my own tomato sauce and, just cook pasta in the morning and mix it in with that, or if, just simple stuff. It doesn't have to be gourmet food for them. And on the contrary, the simpler it is, the more you know. Even a boiled egg with vegetables, and a good slice of bread, or a good quality slice of bread, that's a good lunch for a kid.
Yeah, yeah. I remember seeing a comparison of different kids' school lunches around the world, and it was so interesting to see in Italy they're serving like a nice fresh salad, and I think it was a little piece of salmon or something and some pasta, and things you wouldn't
Yeah.
see necessarily here in school lunches. But,
Yeah, I know. School lunches are interesting. And my kids are in international school, so I see school lunches from all over the world. And it's very interesting to see actually what the kids are getting from different countries. And I think there's nothing wrong with kids eating salad. I think it's fabulous for them to eat salad, but it's really a question of, getting them used to it. A lot of people think, oh, salad is not a kid's food. Well, why? It is a kid's food, just like it's our food.
right. Yes, that's great. So, any other thoughts or tips that you'd like to leave parents with as far as how to keep their kids healthy and happy?
Well, I think the first step in getting healthy is to chuck out the processed foods from the house. I think that's a very, very important step. And I encourage people to go through their pantry, read the ingredient list, get educated on it, and chuck out the bad food. If it's not at home, there is less of a possibility of eating it. Yeah, kids go to parties and yeah, kids eat out, but at least 80% of the time they're eating at home and it's going to be proper food. So that's the most important step. Step number 2 is choose your kids' favorite recipes. Don't go changing your whole life. Choose the favorite recipes that your kids like and healthify them. Work on healthing them. Get the protein to be a better quality protein, perhaps organic. If you're doing, for example, if bolognese is your kid's favorite food, do half meat, half lentils. Make sure the meat is organic. Add in lots of vegetables. Even hidden vegetables into the meal is great. And look at better quality carbohydrates. So swap from the simple carbohydrates to the more complex carbohydrates. That's step number 2. Step number 3 is loading up on the vegetables. And this is requiring you to be A, organized, and B, creative. So, anything from popping a few spinach leaves into the morning smoothie, or perhaps learning to make a green juice and adding in some greens into your kids' apple juice in the morning instead of buying a processed apple juice. And sending carrot sticks and cucumber sticks with a little dip for a morning snack instead of a processed snack. And at lunch, adding in a few cherry tomatoes or some bell peppers or something like that chopped up, and just putting it out there. I have a lot of kids over in my house for play dates, and I always put out a fruit platter and a vegetable platter. And they eat it because they're hungry. If I would put out chips, they would eat that too. It's just a question of what you offer the kids. And step number 4 is making it fun. Remembering that food is not a reward or a punishment, it's rather nourishment. And when you take out the psychological effect of punishment / reward and just focus on the nourishing part of it, it makes the whole relationship with food much healthier.
Wow. Which is so important going forward, for kids' relationship with food, and particularly girls. And yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So, make sure that you never say to your child something like, if you eat your vegetables, you get dessert, because that's building emotional eating. And emotional eating is something that later on in life comes back to you, Or if you say, oh, here, feel better, here, have a lollipop. Then every time your child's going to feel bad, they're going to want something sweet to make them feel better. And I always say to people, just give a hug, give a kiss. That's going to make your kid feel much better than a lollipop.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I remember a therapist when I was potty training my daughter. She said, "Oh, give her an M&M every time she does a good job." I was like, "No, I'm not using food, especially candy, as a reward system."
Exactly. So we need to change that core concept of rewarding the kids with sweets and teaching them that sweets are acceptable in small amounts as part of a healthy diet. But sweets is not something we should be having every single day, and 3-4 times a day. It should not be something that we should be getting when we go to the doctors or when we finish a swimming lesson or when we behave. When we behave, we should be getting a hug or a kiss or a praise versus food.
Wow, wonderful, wonderful advice and perspective. And I want to mention to our listeners that you have some great resources as far as your books. You have a book on healthy party food for kids and also healthy lunches. So that's all available on your website, right?
It's available on my website, and it was something that I was really passionate about, changing the birthday party scene and the lunchbox scene. And I think even in a very balanced way, it's so doable. From a nutritional perspective, from an environmental perspective, I think things need to change in this area. I think we've just gone a little bit overboard with parties, kids' parties, and what we give there and what we serve there. in terms of food and gifts and stuff like that. So I wrote the book together with a very good friend of mine who's also a chef, and we brought nutrition and food together. So it's coming together from a chef's perspective. So it's definitely delicious, but it also has a great nutritional perspective to it as well. And yeah, I'm very passionate about those books.
Oh, super. That's a great resource for parents. And how else can parents take advantage of what you have to offer? Where can they find you? Do you offer Skype sessions with parents?
Yeah. I'm based in Singapore, but I do offer Skype sessions for anyone that's interested. I've got a lot of workshops that you can buy those workshops online. So any workshop that you find on my website, nutritiousanddelicious.com, you can buy, whether it's fermentation or supermarket information or detoxing or kids eat healthy or anything of the sort. You can buy that online. And I've got my books, and I've also got a free e-cookbook that you can download for free from my website, which is just generally fun, healthy recipes that you can use in your everyday cooking.
Oh, perfect. I was going to ask you about that as a little free gift for our parents. Okay, wonderful.
Anyone that goes to my website can download it for free, and there's lots of information on my blog. I blog about a lot of different, anything that goes in my day-to-day life, whether it's kids, whether it's supplementation for kids, and just general healthy stuff that I deal with in my clinic. I like to blog about it too.
Okay, well, this has been so wonderful being with you and just hearing all the wonderful information you have to share with parents. So thank you so much, Karen.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, me too. You added so much to this summit. So thank you again, and I wish you a great day.
Thanks a lot.
All righty, take care.